Grace and peace to you. I'm Sister Anissa Baptiste for Thusia Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm also an Associate Director of the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty, Incorporated. I'd like you to join my live, and whenever you see this video, I am asking you kindly to share it. Share it with persons far and wide. Share it with your family, share it with your friends. I especially appeal to you to share it with your Vincentian family and friends, people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and share it to people in the Caribbean region as well, and all over the world who are facing a current push, a current agitated push for girls, boys, women of the world to take the HPV vaccine. Welcome and thank you. The human papillomavirus vaccine, by the names Gardasil, Gardasil 9 and Silverix, are being touted by the ministries or departments of health of countries of the world as being capable of eliminating cervical cancer within the population. This push, this increased push for people to take this vaccine, is being done by the World Health Organization through the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO. But all of this is largely pushed by Bill Gates of the Bill Gates Foundation. He is one of the major, if not the major funder of the World Health Organization, or the WHO. And Bill Gates has spoken publicly about the fact that they are working on HPV vaccines and other vaccines to give to girls, claiming it will save lives because it will stop them from getting cervical cancer. But nothing could be further from the truth, my dear people. And this video is to warn you by giving you certain information to help you to strengthen your resolve and your position not to take this HPV vaccine. Now, the basis of the claim is that HPV, the human papillomavirus, causes cervical cancer. And then they claim that the vaccine to deal with HPV will therefore prevent or stop the young girl or young boy from going on to get cervical cancer. Now I say, oh, young boy, you say, well, that's crazy. A boy doesn't have a cervix, and that's true. But they're claiming that the boys can get infected with the HPV and then pass it on to the girls. They also claim that the HPV virus, or the HPV, because the V is for virus, is also responsible for penile cancer, or cancer of the penis in boys, cancer of the anus, cancer of the throat. The long and short of it, though, is if you say you are seeking to eliminate cervical cancer, boys do not have a cervix. But again, it's rooted in the suggestion that it is the HPV, which boys can also get, they say, that causes the cancer. And so since a boy can get the HPV and give it to a girl, then he could be responsible for her getting the cancer of her cervix. That's the claim. So two things are being majorly claimed there. One, that HPV causes cervical cancer, and that the HPV vaccine can stop the HPV infection and can stop cervical cancer. This is what the Ministry of Health of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, through PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, through the WHO, World Health Organization, through Bill Gates, is saying to our countries. And I am saying to you, Vincentians, the whole program running right now in our country, where the Ministry of Health is going about in schools, at clinics, in villages. I understand they gave it to grade 6 girls just few months back when they were preparing for the CPE exams. You know, they tend to give certain vaccines at that level, grade 6. The whole program is based upon a lie. A lie, my dear people. And this lie is the claim that the HPV vaccine stops cervical cancer. The Ministry of Health has a campaign going on right now saying that by 2030 they have to vaccinate 15-year-old girls and boys in the country. 90% of 15-year-old girls and boys are to be vaccinated with the HPV vaccine by 2030. And they say this is a part of their agenda or plan to eliminate cervical cancer from within our country. I am saying to you that that HPV vaccine will not eliminate cervical cancer here. Instead, it will cause those children to get cancers. It will cause them to have fertility problems, okay, to go sterile. It will cause them to come down with a host of neurological diseases and more, because of the fact that the ingredients in this vaccine is deadly. The ingredients are deadly. They're poisonous. And so it is a lie. But what I want to tell you about first is a little history we have in dealing with this matter. Good morning, sin-free morning to you, Sister Christina, Omega Halls. This is an impromptu live. Please share it if you can. Tag persons and let them know that I am on, so they could get a chance to see these things. And you could also tag the Thuzian Institute's page, Sister Kareem, if you get a chance, so that it will show up there and anybody will have an opportunity to look at it there as well. Grace and peace to you, my dear. So what am I talking about when I say our history, meaning my church, with the issue of the HPV vaccine? And then I will go back to some evidence concerning the fact that it cannot stop cervical cancer. Okay, so the first time we recognized the problem with this HPV vaccine, not only here in St. and Grenadines but in the region, was in 2014. And in the year 2014, Brother Nyron Medina of our church, he did a series about 4 half-hour television programs for television in Trinidad and Tobago dealing with the Gardasil vaccine danger. All 4 parts can be found on our Telegram channel called Thuzia SDA Global Sentinel 2. Thuzia SDA Global Sentinel 2 on Telegram. 4 parts, Gardasil danger, done by Brother Nyron Medina of the Thuzia Seventh-day Adventist Church. We, the Thuzia Seventh-day Adventist Church in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we followed and we aired those programs on local television here. We also discussed it at length on radio programs that we have. In that very year also, when we recognized that our government was going about screening persons for the HPV, the infection, with the aim of introducing the HPV vaccination, we were proactive, and what we did is we said, let us write to the Prime Minister of the country and let us write to the Minister of Health of the country and inform them of the dangers and concerns that people all over the world have and know about concerning the HPV vaccine. At that time, the main vaccine being talked about and dealt with was Gardasil. Gardasil made by Merck. So we did that. We sent letter to the Prime Minister and letter to the Minister of Health, along with DVD copies. You hear me? DVD copies of the program exposing the dangers of Gardasil. That is what we did to help persons in our country. Okay. Now, I want to give you some evidence about that. I want to give you some evidence about that in just a moment here, as I tag somebody here. Okay? Yes. Alright. So, I am reading to you from minutes of a meeting we held in our Thuzian Institute for Religious Liberty. These minutes are of the 107th meeting of the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty Incorporated, TURL, held on Sabbath, March the 15th and 22nd, 2014 in Mesopotamia. If I could just turn my camera briefly, I could even show you what that looked like, if it allows me to do that. Right? Showing you from another screen. You see that? These are minutes of our meeting where all our members were in attendance. Chevron Ballantyne, Janelle James, Anissa Batiste, Calvert Batiste, Anne-Marie Ballantyne. We also had Rachel Jeffers. We had Karima Paris, Meron Paris. Okay? This is minutes of our meeting of TURL. Now, let me show you something else. Alright? This was reported in our TURL meeting. I will just read it for you since the circumstances will not allow me to show you as clearly as I would like to. Alright, so I'll read it to you. One moment. Okay, so I've brought back the camera on myself. I'm going to read this for you. Alright? Right, good. One moment. My page shifted a bit. Right, here we are. Good. Okay. It says here, HPV vaccine. Sister Anissa reported that a package was sent to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health to educate them on the dangers of the HPV vaccines. She said that she would follow up and keep the brethren informed. This is from our minutes of March 15. We have some from March 22nd as well, 2014. It continues. Sister Anissa reported that she had written to the National Vaccine Information Center about our government's present move, HPV vaccine. The center had responded expressing regret and encouraging her to continue to educate the people. Because you see, this is one of the organizations in America that I was in touch with, that I was learning a lot from concerning the dangers of these vaccines, and who were reporting on the different damage that was being done in girls and boys who were taking this vaccine in America. It's called the National Vaccine Information Center, or the NVIC. And I would write to them and get support. I told them what was happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they encouraged me to continue to educate the people so that the people could make a right choice. Good. Here is also excerpts from a letter written by my husband, Brother Calvert. He's another one of the associate directors, where we were discussing in email exchanges among ourselves, members of TURL. We were discussing the issue and the different news coming out. And Brother Calvert, in responding, he said, and I'm going to read a portion from his email letter, and the letter was dated 15th of May 2014. He said, and I quote, "Just last night on SVG TV News, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health said that they are prepared or preparing to give HPV vaccine to deal with cervical cancer. The news headline said that the PS urges the push for us to address sexual reproductive health," and he puts in brackets, not quoting her word for word. He continues, quote, "From the time I heard the headline, I said, Lord, they're ready to give Gardasil and Cervarix to our young girls. I therefore thank God for discernment and his leading in our lives as we do his work. I also commend the Institute for the timely and relevant work on the radio program now dealing with the dangers of Gardasil for the last 2 weeks." You hear what Brother Calvert is saying on the 15th of May? He's acknowledging that we had been dealing with on radio for the last 2 weeks with this topic, with programs entitled Dangers of Gardasil. Good. Brother Calvert continued. Listen to this. "Brethren, we are indeed given meat in due season. Amen, brethren? Sister Anissa and TURL was proactive. Sister Anissa and TURL was proactive in sending copies of these programs exposing the dangers of Gardasil to the Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, and the Ministry of Health, Minister of Health, Clayton Bergin. I recall Sister Anissa saying he met her, that's Clayton Bergin, he met her while she was walking in Kingstown, and he was driving in his vehicle, and he shouted to her that he had gotten the DVDs and gave them to the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Louis Deschamps. We, TURL, did the research and sent the evidences to them, and they ignore us. they are going ahead with their plans and aims. Let us be steadfast, brethren, and keep ourselves in the love of Yahweh as we see the day approaching. May Yahweh God. And he goes on to give a greeting. May Yahweh God bless us. So here we have all this evidence that we sent this information before to the previous administration. I'm sure if they have them in their archives, you could look inside the Ministry of Health and you will find the letter that was sent to the Minister of Health back then, Clayton Bergen, Permanent Secretary, because he said he gave them to the Permanent Secretary. Letter would be dated around sometime March 2014, and also you should find the DVDs as well. 4 copies of 4 programs that were aired on television, video programs called Gardasil Danger, or the Dangers of Gardasil. The Ministry of Health should have these things unless they destroyed letters and archives. But wait. Notice Brother Calvert also said that we sent a letter to the Prime Minister, Ralph Gonsalves. So I want to think too that this letter and the DVDs should be in the Prime Minister's office. Let me tell you what the letter to the Prime Minister said. I'm going to read it to you right now. This one is a bit fine and I have a little issue with my glasses and this, so let me just take them off and read it for you. 26th of February 2014. So this is actually the date of the letter. 26th of February 2014. Please share this live. Hi Sister Marva, Natasha, Maidon, brethren, tag persons for me from St. Vincent, tag Vincentians, tag Lennox Lamkin, Joy Lamkin, and all these people. Tag Vincentians, let them see it when they see it. 26th of February 2014. Here the letter to the Prime Minister, and the same day we sent letters to the Minister of Health, Ministry of Health. Dear Prime Minister Gonsalves, greetings of grace and peace to you from the Heavenly Father Yahweh and His only Son Jesus Christ, who alone has the authority in heaven and in earth to command doctrines and morals for humanity's salvation from sin. Matthew 28:18-20. I trust these few words meet you in good health and pray for the gift of the Holy Spirit in your heart as you consider the things I present to you here. Please find included in this package 2 DVDs. So that's 2 DVDs. I think the 2 DVDs had on the 4 programs. Please find included in this package 2 DVDs of copies of TV programs Gardasil Danger and Gardasil Danger Parts 2 through to 4. Each presentation is just about 38 minutes in length. They were originally prepared for a church TV program aired in Trinidad and Tobago as public service education on the dangers of the Gardasil vaccine claimed to prevent cervical cancer in women by addressing the human papillomavirus known to cause the same. Kindly consider the important information therein and how it relates to our Ministry of Health's current move to study our people's acceptance of vaccination for this disease. I pray that all the facts, including those pertaining to serious risks and side effects known to be associated with Gardasil and the other HPV vaccine cervix, would be provided to the public for informed choice. Listen to this part of the letter to Ralph and the Minister of Health, 2014. Choosian Institute for Religious Liberty. Listen to this. France, the UK, India, and Japan are among countries. Let me take that again. A certain change just took place in my phone setting. Okay, here we are. Let's get it back on track. Right, here we are. Again, reading the letter. France, France, the UK, India, and Japan are among countries, this thing is so fine, are among countries which have removed advertising of Gardasil as prevention for cervical cancer based on their research and the reported deleterious effects, including death, on the lives of women. Are you hearing what we put in the letter to the Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves at the time, now opposition leader, and the Minister of Health at the time, Clayton Bergen, and they got the letters and they got the DVDs? Check in the office of the Ministry of Health, check in the office of the Prime Minister. The Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty, the religious liberty arm of the Thusia Seventh-day Adventist Church, wrote in 2014 to the government, warning them about this HPV vaccine. And we used world information. Let me read that line again. I pray that all the facts, including those pertaining to serious risks and side effects known to be associated with Gardasil and the other HPV vaccine, Cervarix, would be provided to the public for informed choice. France, the UK, India, and Japan are among countries which have removed advertising of Gardasil as prevention for cervical cancer based on their research and the reported deleterious effects, including death, on the lives of women. I commend this information to you out of love and concern for our people. May the only representative of God in the earth, the Holy Spirit of truth, John chapter 14 verses 16 to 18 and 26, and John chapter 15 13 to 14, teach and guide you into all truth. This package will also be submitted to key players in the health department, including the Ministry of Health. Yours sincerely, Anissa Batiste. Did you hear this? So we warned the government of this country to consider the experiences of other countries around the world. Listen to me. You have SVG Health, the Ministry of Health right now. You go on their Facebook page, SVG Health, and you will find for the last couple of months, they have been advertising the HPV vaccine to girls to be taken. They say that they are following WHO's agenda, that by 2030, you see that 2030 agenda, that is globalist agenda for destruction of the world and the world's peoples. But they're following the 2030 agenda to eliminate cervical cancer by giving HPV vaccines. And here are their aims: that 90% of Vincentian boys and girls at age 15 must have that vaccine by 2030. That is what is being advertised on the Ministry of Health's website. That was under the previous administration. And the new administration, unfortunately, because this is what happens, they inherited the same policy. But then you could change your policy as you are new. So I'm speaking with the hopes also and appeals to the new administration. You cannot continue this thing without investigating it. You cannot do it. Honorable Daniel Cummings and whoever your permanent secretary is, I think Narissa Gittins at the time, right now, you all need to stop this HPV vaccination program. Stop giving it to the girls of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Stop giving it to the boys. You know why? Because it doesn't eliminate cervical cancer. That's the first thing. That's false advertising of a product. Because other countries pulled it from the market, pulled the advertising claim that it stops cervical cancer, because they know it does not. They know it does not. And let me just give you briefly why we are saying to you it doesn't stop cervical cancer. Let me tell you that. On December the 1st, an article was published in a Substack by a doctor, PhD, Dr. Marianne Demasi. I follow her Substack. It's a paid thing, a paid subscription to get all this scientific information and so on. We do all this research in the interest of our fellow men, out of love in our hearts for them. And so in this article called, let me get the article for you quickly, 1 second. Yes, Cochrane misled the public on the HPV vaccine. Cochrane declared clear and consistent evidence that the HPV vaccine prevents cervical cancer, but its own data tell a very different story. You can go online, look for this woman, Dr. Marianne Demasi. On December the 1st, 2025, she published this article. I just want to read a little piece from it to show you the lies. And if you don't believe me, because you say I'm not a doctor, you go and ask any of the doctors here in this country. I dare any one of you to show me one randomized, controlled trial. Just one. Show me one randomized, controlled trial that was done among young girls, age 12, age 11, age 10, age 9, because that's how young they're giving the Gardasil vaccine in America. Show me one randomized controlled trial, or an RCT, that was done among any 15-year-old girl, showing that they took the Gardasil vaccine, the HPV vaccine, and it stopped cervical cancer in them. You can't show it. You know why? Listen to this. Listen to this. RCTs, that's randomized control trials, did not show cancer prevention. Here, the first of Cochrane's 2 reviews analyzed 60 randomized control trials. How many? 60 randomized control trials, which are normally the gold standard of reliable evidence. Here, the author's own conclusions were far more cautious. Here what the author concluded, quote, "The studies were not of sufficient duration for cancers to develop." End of quote. You hear that? The studies were not of sufficient duration for cancers to develop. In other words, you study in a group of girls that you give the vaccine to. You want to prove it stops cancer. But they did not let the study last long enough for cancer to develop so that you could prove whether it stopped the cancer or not. Here it is. This is not a minor caveat. It is the crux of the issue. Cervical cancer develops decades after the initial HPV infection, but vaccine trials tracked participants for only a few years. They did not follow the participants long enough for cervical cancers to appear, and no trial reported cervical cancer outcomes. Did you hear that? As a result, the trials could not show whether the vaccine prevents cancer. Did you hear what I'm telling you? It is a false advertising claim. It is misinformation and disinformation for the government of this country, past and present, through its Ministry of Health, whether by ignorance or not. It is misinformation and disinformation. And we can't say it's by ignorance on the part of the past government, because we informed them. And if the opposition was paying attention, they would have seen too. It is misinformation, disinformation, false advertising, lying to the public to be going about saying that you going and prevent cervical cancer using HPV vaccine, when no HPV vaccine in the history of the whole world since its introduction in the 2000s there, no HPV vaccine has ever proven to stop HPV infection and to stop cervical cancer. Why? Because watch. When they gave the young girls the vaccine at age 12, let me do something here quickly. We're going to be parking shortly, so I will have to stop my live. This is just a little talk with you. We had a chart we made. Sister Karima would remember it. Right? The timeline goes like this. The Gardasil was first introduced onto the market in 2006. So an 11-year-old girl would get vaccinated then. She's 11 in 2006. But the average age when cervical cancer comes in a woman is like 50 years old. Okay, some say 40, might come earlier. Between 11 years old and 40 years old, that is 29 years. So for you to be able to track the 11-year-old girl who took Gardasil in 2006 when it first came to the market, for you to be able to track her to see if the Gardasil HPV shot she got at 11 years old in 2006 really worked to stop cervical cancer in her, you would have to follow her for 29 years till she's about 40 years old, which would take us to the year 2035 to see if it worked. But when they did the trials to bring the vaccine to market in 2006, they never tracked the girls for that long. You see, the trials themselves were not even designed to prove if it could stop cervical cancer. Because to prove that, you have to give it years and years of following these trial participants. You're talking about, in the case of a 15-year-old, if she will get, will potentially get cervical cancer at age 40, 15 from 40 is how much? That's 25. You have to track her for 25 years. So if you give the 15-year-olds in Simmons no, in 2025 where we are, you have to add on 25 years to that. You have to track them for 25 years more, which will take us to 2050 before you could claim that the vaccine stopped cervical cancer. And that is providing that if the world were to last, at that time she didn't have cancer. You can't prove it. It's false advertising. It's a blatant lie. But moreover, because we will talk more about these things, because I'm not letting up. Because this nonsense has started again. We fought it back in 2014. We fought it back in 2017. I was on TV, radio, interviews with the news, and they're still doing it. This is wickedness. One of the latest studies done where the lying claim that it could stop cervical cancer was just there in November. And researchers, medical researchers went in and took a closer look at this study and proved they were lying. And the article I referred to just now there was published in December the 1st this year to show you they were lying. You ask yourself, pardon me, why is our government following WHO, World Health Organization, following Bill Gates? Because he is who funds primarily Gates Foundation, the WHO. Following PAHO, who's doing the biddings of the WHO, who is doing the biddings of Bill Gates because he gives them money, plenty money. Why are the governments of the region following these people? Why aren't we doing our own research to see what we are putting into our people? Because let me tell you about the ingredients now. You need to understand that HPV vaccines contain a host of poisons, my dear people. A host of poisons that no parent should ever put into their children. You see the slide here? You might be able to see it so good, but you see the center there? HPV vaccines contains. And you see the different things it's telling you it contains? It contains, among the things it contains, aluminum. It contains polysorbate AT. It contains sodium borate or borax. It contains yeast protein. It contains phenoxyethanol. So I will turn back my page and I will show you what Cervarix contains too, just now. So I will turn it back and I will read out for you. Watch this. Watch this. You think it's joke? This is craziness. This is what they're putting into your young girls. Alright? This is what they're putting into your young girls and boys. And I want you to stay tuned to our programming because we will share information on the internet further. I'm doing TikToks. I have half-hour programs. I have a 40-something minute program that I aired on SPG TV recently, showing you the HPV Gardasil and Cervarix vaccine dangers. I have a lot of information. You have to follow my page to get to them and follow me on TikTok. So here it is. The aluminum 225 micrograms that are in the HPV vaccines. Here what the aluminum does. Animal and human studies have shown that aluminum can cause nerve cell death, and that vaccine aluminum adjuvants can allow aluminum to enter the brain as well as cause inflammation at the injection site, leading to chronic joint and muscle pain as well as fatigue. And we have the links to the evidence on that slide. So if you have your daughter who took it unfortunately and you see she complaining from muscle pain, joint pain, she can't walk properly, she's tired and fatigued and chronic fatigue, know that it is the effects of the aluminum injected into her bloodstream, affecting her nervous system, affecting her abilities that depend upon healthy neurological systems and functioning. This is wickedness. You want to cripple them? I know Vincentians living in America who tell me, just this morning one lady commented on my video, Tanya, and told me that she refused to give it to her girls. This vaccine damages a lot of people. She said, I saw young girls who took it and they had problems with walking. One girl is like she was walking backward. A Vincentian from Layu living in America told me that this morning. You think it's joke? Watch this. It contains phenoxyethanol. This is in the Gardasil. A glycol or ether or chemical highly toxic to the nervous system, kidneys and liver. Hear what the FDA warns about that ingredient, phenoxyethanol, the same wicked FDA who pushing the HPV vaccine. Hear what they warn about that ingredient in the HPV vaccine. The FDA warns, quote, can cause shutdown of the central nervous system, CNS. That's your brain, you know, man. It can cause shutdown of the central nervous system, vomiting, and contact dermatitis, end of quote, in cosmetics. So I'm saying to you, if it could cause that in cosmetics, if that ingredient in cosmetics could interfere with your brain, you put it on your cosmetic to make up your lipstick and thing and it get into your skin. If that ingredient could cause your shutdown of your nervous system, imagine what it could do when injected into your bloodstream from a Gardasil injection, an HPV vaccine. Here is another ingredient that is very poisonous. Watch this.
Blood goes to the brain, so.
Sodium borate borax 35 micrograms. Here it is. This is the main ingredient in boric acid. Powdered boric acid is often used to kill cockroaches. What the hell is doing in a HPV vaccine for your 15-year-old girl and boy?
Because they serious cockroaches.
Powdered boric acid is often used to kill cockroaches. Are we roaches? Are we to be killed? Ask Bill Gates. And ask your government, past and present, if they have any agreement and deal with Bill Gates since COVID time. Ask them that too. Sodium borate is now listed as a dangerous poison. Symptoms of sodium borate poisoning are very similar to many of the side effects being reported with the Gardasil vaccine. That is what they're putting in the Gardasil vaccine, the HPV vaccine that they're giving you and telling you about eliminating cervical cancer. This is sorcery. Watch this again. Hear what else is inside here. Polysorbate 80. Listen to this carefully. Although polysorbate 80 is a food additive that enables solubility of flavoring oils with water, injection is quite different. So you're injecting polysorbate 80 by having it in the HPV vaccine. Hear this. Polysorbate 80 injected into prepubescent rats caused a rapid growth of reproductive organs, but growth was abnormal and the rats were sterile, unable to have children. Did you hear that? So they tested the ingredient on animals first. Polysorbate 80, they tested it on rats, and what did they find? When they injected the polysorbate 80 that is in your HPV vaccine, Gardasil, when they injected it into rats doing their testings, I mean, the rats who were not at the age of puberty as yet, they were prepubescent. You know what the polysorbate 80 injected into them did? It caused a rapid growth of reproductive organs. In other words, they kind of had fast development of the reproductive organs.
So we think I'm too young.
And then the growth, because it was fast and abnormal, it caused the rats to become sterile, unable to have children. So what you think will happen to your young girl and your young boy, your 15-year-olds, your 11 and 12-year-olds who they probably gave already when they were leaving grade 6, and they want to give 15-year-olds hair, 90% of them by 2030. What do you think will happen to them with the polysorbate 80 injected into them if they give them the Gardasil HPV vaccine? It will interfere with their fertility. It will cause them to have abnormal rapid growth of their sexual reproductive organs and cause them to go sterile. This is what the facts are telling us about the ingredients in the HPV vaccine. Now, who in heaven's name would want to put such things into something that is supposed to be a vaccine? This is for depopulation, as Sister Creamer said. This is for eugenics. This is for cutting down the population of the world. And Bill Gates is known to say that. He is known to have said that if they do a good job, the world is too populated, overpopulated, and if they do a good job using vaccines, they could get it under control. Bill Gates is on record saying that in a TED talk. I'm giving you one more ingredient. No, wait, I ain't finished. Polysorbate 80 also, it goes on to say, when used intravenously with vitamins, it has been known to cause anaphylactic shock. You know what is that? You take the vaccine, and immediately or a few minutes later, the person goes into anaphylactic shock. They could drop down and die if they don't have an EpiPen to give them to stop the shock. Here it is. According to the polysorbate 80 MSDS, it may be a carcinogenic or cause cancer, as well as a mutagenic or cause birth and gene defects. This is what is in the HPV vaccines. But in case they say, well, we're not giving Gardasil here, we're giving Cervarix. We're giving Cervarix. Okay, let me tell you what's in the Cervarix. That's the other brand of HPV vaccine. Let me tell you what's in the Cervarix. What Cervarix contains. Here, this wickedness. It contains the same aluminum that's causing the problems going to your blood, cross the blood-brain barrier that God put there to protect your brain. It contains the same aluminum. Okay. It contains a lipid or a fat, monophosphoryl lipid, which helps the aluminum to get across the blood-brain barrier. It contains another type of aluminum hydroxide, which they did not use in the trials, but when the vaccine came to market, they added that in. So apparently they didn't want this new aluminum here to be studied to see what it could do. So they left it out in the trials, then approved the vaccine. When the vaccine comes to market now, it appears with this extra aluminum in it. This is the wickedness that took place when they were developing HPV vaccines. Do not be deceived. Check it out for yourselves. I will name some documentaries you can watch before I end. What else is in Cervarix? Here it is, here it is. 4L1 protein in the form of non-infectious virus-like particles produced by recombinant DNA technology using a baculovirus expression system which uses HI5-RIX4446 cells derived from the insect Trichophyllocea. Why you want to put cells derived from a moth, an insect, the DNA of it? Why you want to put that in an HPV vaccine to stop cervical cancer? You say.
And to go into human.
Watch this. To put in human beings. Watch this. Watch. Look at this slide here. I tell you, I'll put these things on my Facebook page after. These are things we made back in 2014 and 2017 to educate the populace, you know. And we put them up on Facebook. Right, Sister Karima? Sister Karima could bear me out on that. Look, what cervix contains. Look at the animal. Look at the creature. The DNA of this creature is put into the HPV vaccine. Why? What that has to do with stopping cervical cancer? I tell you, these vaccines are sorcery. You're putting things in there that's stopping fertility in rats. You're putting things in there that causing cancer. You're putting things in there that causing aluminum to get to your blood, cross your blood-brain barrier and cause neurological problems galore, like GBS. This syndrome, like causing people to be crippled, causing girls to not be able to walk properly, to lose mobility, to come down with chronic fatigue and chronic pain in the limbs. Why are you doing this? Because the people, the makers, Merck and GlaxoSmithKline, with Bill Gates Foundation and all these guys behind it, are interested in population decline. They are eugenicists. They believe that they have the right to determine who should live and who should die, with their claim that the world is too populated, as if they are gods with God. And unbeknownst to us, and unfortunately, our governments don't usually do independent research into these things. They follow the WHO, they follow the PAHO, they follow CARFA. But they don't realize that when they are following these agencies, they are following Bill Gates, because Bill Gates is the major funder of the World Health Organization. And they go along. Perhaps they're getting medication from them for a certain price. They feel that their health systems cannot run without the aid of these international so-called health agencies. But they are not health agencies, they are public death agencies. And it is time enough that we become modern in the truest sense. What that means? Do your own research. We have Vincentians all over the world, in different parts of the world, in the diaspora, who can help. You have agencies with expert doctors, like the World Council of Health. I had a meeting with them yesterday, Dr. Tess Laurie. Like Dr. Peter McCullough, we had him on our program last year as our guest. Most published cardiologist in the whole wide world on this issue of COVID-19 and its damage to the heart, giving people myocarditis and pericarditis. You have all these doctors like Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, the most published and most experienced doctor in the world dealing with vaccines, not just the mRNA that we have been introduced to with the COVID, but different vaccines, childhood vaccines for years. This woman, her father was a doctor, and he saw something was wrong with vaccines, and he never vaccinated her as a child. So she has never gotten one vaccine. And as she grew up and followed her father's footsteps and became a doctor, she decided to study all the childhood vaccines and see, why are we really giving children these things when they come out of their parents, when they come out of their mother's womb, and God made them a certain way? Why do we pump these things in them from early? And she has written and published extensively on the evils and the dangers of vaccines. You see the children today with autism. You see them with their ear infections. You see them with their stomach infections. You see them with all kind of eczema and all kind of problems on their skin and in their health from small. And you ask, where did those things come from? It's the vaccines they've been giving them. I don't care who want to call me anti-vax and conspiracy theorists. These are facts, and you better get with the program, because the program today clearly shows all we have been saying for years is true. Because you see what they did to the world with COVID. With COVID-19, with COVID vaccines. And we are warning you and we are saying, just 4 days ago, well today will be 5 days now, the Ministry of Health just 4 days ago put up this advertisement. Let me show it to you. Just 4 days ago, SVG Health Facebook page. They brought a woman, a doctor here from an organization called Basic Health International, who was sent by PAHO, and PAHO is part of the WHO, to come to help to train Vincentian nurses and doctors in doing the HPV DNA testing. Now, we know pap smear screening has been done for years. That helps to identify any precancerous lesions and help you to treat it immediately before it goes on to become cancerous. That's what people have been doing for years, and that is what has been working. But now you want to push vaccine again, because they say here, as a ministry, we've worked hard to ensure that all systems, protocols and staff training are in place so that active HPV screening, treatment and vaccination services can be fully rolled out across every health district by 2026. Why? Who given you deadlines like that? Why you want to roll out vaccination of HPV fully by 2026? Who told you you have to give out a certain number of vaccines by 2026 to get whatever they promise you? Who told you that? Whose interests are you following? Did Vincentians, when they vote for you, say, well, we want HPV vaccines rolled out in the whole country by 2026? Did Vincentians say so? No. They want good health. They want hospital fix. They want more nurses. They want the cardboard removed from behind the beds. They want proper service. They want enough nurses on the ward. They want to make sure medication available. Oh, so could it be that these agencies are giving you medication, and because of that we sign agreements and we agree to follow their policy with respect to giving out these vaccines and other things without studying to see what they are doing to our people? I am saying time enough for that kind of governance to stop. It can't work. HPV vaccines are deadly. Let me just, as I leave, I'm leaving. Let me just give you some headlines about the dangers of HPV vaccines. Some headlines. Watch this. HPV vaccine increases risk of autonomic dysfunction and menstrual irregularities in young women. Check your girls. Check and see what's happening to them after they took that vaccine. Watch here. Larry Cook, he's a well-known medical journalist publishing about the dangers of vaccines. He posted on July 24th. The HPV vaccine has never been proven to stop cancer. It has killed hundreds of teens. It has seriously injured over 100,000 teens, usually in a slow death spiral because of the proprietary heavier molecular weight aluminum adjuvant. Look at an example of a young girl. Look at how she was in nicer times. A once healthy teen is destroyed by the HPV vaccine. Okay? Let me just make sure. Right. Look at her. Look at what became of her after she took it. Look at her. And I will show you things on TV, because there are documentaries that have been done. You hear me? Exposing the damage. Here's another post. Dr. Colleen Huber. This will be my last one, right? Dr. Colleen Huber, August 25th. She posted in a group called Died Suddenly. She put, in the 19-year history of my cancer clinic, this woman is a doctor. She treats people with cancers for 19 years. So CMO, don't come and tell me any stupidness about I ain't no doctor, because I quoting doctors who have more experience than you, who have more training and I direct contact and dealing with this issue than you. Dr. Colleen Huber says, in the 19-year history of my cancer clinic, of all the women who came in with cervical cancer, only one had that I remember had never had the HPV vaccine. All the others had been recently vaccinated with it. You hear that? In her 19 years of treating women with cancer, when she counted up all the women who came into her with cervical cancer, only one who had it did not take the cervical cancer vaccine. All the others who came to her with cancer, it is because they had all been recently vaccinated with the HPV vaccine. She said all vaccines have negative efficacy, which is increased risk of acquiring the disease that the shot was advertised to prevent. Did you hear that? Let me read that again. I'm going to end on this. All vaccines have negative efficacy, which is increased risk of acquiring the disease that the shot was advertised to prevent. And this is the case with Gardasil and Cervarix HPV vaccines. Because as I showed in my TikTok, and you must check it out, Erin Crawford gave her story of how she was a young girl in her 20s and she was encouraged to take the HPV vaccine Gardasil. She had never, at the time when she took it, she did not have an HPV infection, but she took it. She ended up very sick. And when they checked her, when they checked the tonsillitis that she had, and they removed the tonsils because it was so bad and not getting better, when they checked the tissue, the cells, there was cancer in the tonsils. And when they checked it, they found the very strains of the HPV, or the human papillomavirus, that is in the Gardasil vaccine that she received. They found the very traits, the very strains of the HPV in the cancer in her tonsils. What? Because the Gardasil vaccine itself has the HPV strains in it. So it gave it to her. But wait, they checked her further and they found, guess what? Cancer in her cervix. You took a vaccine to stop cancer in your cervix and you end up with cancer in your cervix. That is what happened to Erin Crawford. She had to remove her cervix. And they checked the cells because she ordered them to study it. And they found the very same strains of the HPV that is in the vaccine, that they say this vaccine will stop this and this and this strain of HPV. They found it in her cells that were cancerous. So she knows for sure that it was the vaccine that gave her the cancer, because it was an HPV infection, because she did not even have an HPV infection when she took the vaccine. So my dear people, what is my message to you? My message to you is this: do not take the HPV vaccine. Do not give it to your young girls. Do not give it to your young boys. I am begging you. I am begging you, please. If you have done it, you need to now be studying ways to try to detox from that aluminium. You need to ask God for forgiveness for following ignorance, and for maybe going against conviction. If you got conviction, you shouldn't take it. And my message to you is, don't trust the governments. Don't trust any government, because sadly they usually do things with other interests in mind. You have to, when they come to you with something and say, put this in your child, it will stop this, it will do this, it will prevent that, go and do your research first. Go and prayerfully do your research. Check out what is going on around the world to see what the experiences of the rest of the world is. I want you to check certain documentaries to get education on this. There's a documentary called Manufactured Crisis, and it covers stories of girls and boys who are affected by the HPV vaccine. There's another documentary called Vaxxed. There are different parts, part 1, part 2, part 3. I think in part 2 they cover the issue of HPV vaccines as well, and they show you real life stories, people testifying, mothers who regret what happened to their children, fathers who regret, girls who regret, even stories of those who have died. Go and watch Vaxxed part 2. Look for the Gardasil portion in it. Go and watch another documentary called Sacrificial Virgins by Joan Shenton and Company in the UK. I met Joan Shenton at the HPV Vaccine Education Symposium, the 4th HPV Vaccine Education Symposium back in 2019 in, Chicago. Go and check for that documentary, Sacrificial Virgins. I also have a book about exposing the HPV vaccine. Please, I beg of you. Check the Children Health Defense, CHD website. You will find articles on there as well about the HPV vaccine. You'll find people like Tommy, oh boy, what's her name again? Polly. And this other lawyer, I can't remember her name right now. We met these ladies as well at the meeting, talking about it. Authors of a book called HPV Vaccine Danger. You need to study the thing. You need to say no. When they see people not taking it and they want to know why, they will say it's anti-vaxxers like Anissa Batiste. They will say it's conspiracy theories. They did it back in 2017 and 2014. And I put them in their places. The CMO right now, the Chief Medical Officer, I rebuked her and those in the Ministry of Health. Because you all don't know what you're talking about and you don't want to hear because you just want to follow Paho. You want them to be able to say at the end of the day, oh, Simmons and Granny's performed well. They had 80% coverage in taking the HPV vaccine. They had 80% uptake of the flu vaccine. They had 80% this, that. That's what you're looking for. And not studying how the things affecting people's health. But we're not here to stroke your ego. For you to prove before PAHO and WHO that your ministry under your watch did so good because you got this big amount of people in the country to take your vaccines. We are here in the interest of people's health and life. Because without good health and without life, they cannot serve God, who created them and gave them life and health for them to be able to serve Him. You're interfering with the purposes of God upon people's lives when you introduce things to them without the truth about it, that damages their health and life. Their bodies are God's temple. And this here is not an issue of mandate now, because they're not mandating it. But let me tell you something. It is not only mandating the things that are evil. It is also advocating for them in ignorance. It is also advocating for them not listening to advice that it is dangerous. It is also advocating for them without doing proper research. That is dangerous too. Because when you finish, roll up your sleeve and take it. Or when you finish, put your mouth on a mic and say, our young girl should take this. And then something happened to them, you become responsible too, even if it didn't mandate it. Because it followed you. Another thing you need to take note of, my dear people, is that they are not telling you about the risks. When they tell you take it, they're telling you it will stop cervical cancer. We already debunked that it can't. But they're not telling you, well, there are some risks here, there are some risks here, there are some risks. So that you could weigh it. Weigh the risks to the proposed benefit. And see if you want to make a choice. But when you're not told the risks, your choice is not informed. You are making a choice in the dark. And that is dangerous and deadly. You know how many mothers regret when they see the way their daughters and sons have suffered? There are children who have even committed suicide because they could not continue. They felt they couldn't continue to live with the impacts of it upon their lives, how it changed their lives forever. There's a story of a boy called Colton who committed suicide at 18 years old because the Gardasil vaccine mashed up his health and had the boy living off of a kind of device he had to be carrying around on his back and holding on the ground to breathe. A kind of breathing machine. It is all in the story in the Vaxxed 2 documentary. Check it out. He killed himself. So I am warning you all, and to the Ministry of Health and the government of Simmons and the Grenadines, I am saying these things were given to the previous government before. Go back in your archives and see if they are not there. 2 DVD copies with 4 half-hour programs on the dangers of the HPV vaccine Gardasil submitted by the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty, a religious liberty arm of the Thusia SDA Church. Check out your ministry's offices. Check for the letter that was sent to Clayton Bergen, the then Minister of Health. Check for the letter. He said he gave it to the Permanent Secretary when we sent it. Check for the letter that was sent to the Prime Minister if it is still there. And you will see that you were warned before. Check out the evidence. But I am begging you, do not follow this WHO 2030 agenda where they want to vaccinate 15-year-old girls and boys in Simmons and Grannies with HPV vaccine by 2030. Don't follow them. Stop it right now. Stop that program. You're going to have blood on your hands. You're going to have sick girls and boys on your hands. I'm begging you. I'm pleading with you. Stop it. Do not give it to women either. Do not give it to young women. older than 15 who, okay, they might screen and find they have HPV infection, and while it is not a cervical cancer diagnosis and it is not a death sentence, so to speak, you might tell them take the vaccine to prevent you from going on to get cancer. Don't do it. You're going to be responsible for these people. I'm urging you all, somebody get the message to them. And I want any of you out there who hear this, whenever you hear it, and if you know somebody who has suffered from it, if you know somebody who are going through these things, contact me and let us document what is happening. Because that's another thing we don't do regularly and enough in this place. They don't document the adverse effects when they put these things in people's bodies. You don't hear you. There's no place you could go online to say, well, adverse effects to HPV vaccines is invincible. So people could look and check and research to determine their decision, whether they want to take it or not, or whether they want to give it to their children or not. Where is the St. Vincent and the Grenadines vaccine adverse event reporting system? Where is it online? Where is it Simone Keyser Beach? Where is it Miss CMO? These are the things that concern us. And I say these things to you as I end, because God tells us in 3 John verse 3, Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prosper. God wants you to be in health, prosper and be in health. So it is the will of God that you be healthy, and where we see things threatening your health, as ministers of the gospel, we will tell you, we will warn you, we will appeal to you not to do it. And so if a government policy is going against your health by things like HPV vaccines, they're going against the will of God. But they have to be informed and educated and aware. And if they continue to push this thing in the face of the education, they'll answer to God for it. This is why I don't put my trust in man. Because at the end of the day, under pressure and all kind of other interests, they do things that are against you, even though you thought initially they will do well. You have to revisit the policies of the previous government that you inherited, and don't just follow everything. You can't just continue with everything. You have to do your own research. It's hard work, but it's what you signed up for. And if we, a simple little church with a few members, a little institute with 8 members, could go and do the research, go online, find all these things and present them to the public and present them to you, then you could do it, who being paid thousands and thousands of dollars by Vincentians to do it as a job. So this is the end of my appeal for now. I thank you for watching. I thank you for listening. Sister Karima has listed some of the documentary names. Vax documentary, you have parts 1, part 2, part 3. You have Sacrificial Virgins. There's also one called Manufactured Crisis, and I forgot this one. There's one called Injecting Aluminum. Tells you about the dangers of injecting aluminum. This doctor, Professor Exley, very, very important expert in this area. We've been in touch with him by emails. He has even discussed with us measures that could be taken to seek to detox from the aluminium. Things like the silicic acid in something called Fiji water and other waters that have that acid in it. But we'll talk more about that. But remember, you can reach me by 528-1015 if you're local here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Call or send a message in WhatsApp to 528-1015, or you can just add on 1784 if you're overseas and you want to talk to me. Okay, love you very much in Christ. All that was said is meant to help, though I may say it passionately and angry at times because of the evil. It is not meant to do you harm. It is because I want to arouse you and awake you to the realities. Carly Monty Harry says, a very valued presentation. You're most welcome, and thank you. And please, more than anything else, I ask you all, share it and tag persons, right? Share it and tag persons. Remember, God doesn't put retribution until he gives warning. God is a fair and just God. So I hope those who have to take the warning will take it, because if you continue despite the warning, blood will be on your hands. Amen. Bye for now. Love you in Christ. Amen. I'm Sister Anissa Batiste for Thusia Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty, signing off. Bye.